Easy questions.
But you kind of went into the post-spring period looking to improve the secondary. How do you feel like you did?
Good. I thought we got some good pieces obviously out of the portal. That adds value to our team, right? We get X has been having a great summer, right? Matt Bailey's been having a awesome summer, right? Demetrius Hill, right? And so it's been really really good. We obviously added some pieces, but I'm just excited about our defense as a whole. We got some guys. It's a second, third year, and a lot more experience, right? Experience is the best teacher, and obviously we brought some younger guys, obviously who played a little bit last year, and so I'm really looking forward to what's ahead. Only because I feel like we got some really good pieces that we added, along with some pieces that we already had who've kind of been through the fire a little bit and know how we operate. And so it's been good.
And we haven't talked to you since Terrence, obviously. What do you like about what he adds? And then I guess similarly for Torrey as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's clear, right? Terrence obviously has a ton of athletic ability, and we are beyond excited about him, right? Torrey Cox is, right? He was an all-conference player where he was at, so it's like adding those pieces were vital and are really really good. But I think the most important thing is that, right, like the Gabe Axes of the world, right, taking a leadership role, right? Seth Coleman, right, taking a leadership role, right? Dylan Rosiak, right, like just to see his progression as once a young linebacker, now like he's the man in the middle of our defense. You know what I mean? Like to see Matt Bailey get ingratiated back into obviously coming off the injury, and so like bringing in the new pieces, right, with those older pieces, it's like this the summer sessions we've been having in terms of them working out and being able to run around and move around and do things without a football, and it's been really really good for us because like obviously we're going to get into fall camp here still relatively soon, and just to see those guys, I think we're going to be able to flow into it a lot faster as opposed to some previous years where we really didn't do a lot of football. And so it's been really really fun kind of seeing them come together. We've kind of ramped up like a lot of the team bonding things over the summer, only because, right, we've added way more new guys than we normally would have added, and so just to see those guys gel and come together, it's been truly a thing of beauty, and we're really excited about it.
And maybe even with the growth of your younger DBs over the last 6 months, how important was it though to get Terrence and Torrey, two guys that have maybe played quite a bit in the last couple of years?
Yeah, I can remember Dave Dorn once telling me, right, experience, right? Experience is the best teacher, right? Like you can have guys who may not be as athletic, 4'3", right, jump freaking out of gym, but if they got experience, right, that's something that you can't really make up for in guys playing a lot of games, only because like when you're thrown into that fire, right, and you like guys who just played a little more football. And so that's one thing that I thought that obviously that Terrence and Torrey bring, just because they played a lot of football. Like when you add those two guys in a room, they have probably played more football games, those two guys alone, than our whole secondary combined, right? Terrence or Torrey alone has probably played more football, right, in terms of starts than our whole secondary combined. And so it's just like you bring in an extreme amount of defensive back starts, and they understand the game and they understand like the pressure situation. So those are things that are really really hard to teach unless you're in that setting. Both those guys played in some big time games, and we're really really excited about them, just as we are all the other guys, right? The Gentle Hunts of the world who obviously got in here, right? And so I think we're gonna have a really really special group of guys this year.
With Terrence in particular, there hasn't been a time in his life that he wasn't heavily recruited. So what do you feel like you guys did well to get him to buy into you, and what maybe were kind of some of the highlights of your
Well, I mean, right, we got the whole DB sale, right, like over the course of the last couple of years. But I think, like what I loved about his situation is like I didn't have a chance to really talk to Terrence until probably about 2 days before he came up on his OV. I was talking to mom and dad, right? Like a lot of people were obviously coming at him, and everybody was like, obviously guy's super talented, but everybody was throwing numbers and this and that, and dad just wanted somebody that was genuine and real and that was going to develop his son, right? And so like when you get to the meat and potatoes of things, there are still families out there that want the real, and they fell in line with how we operate, and it was a match made in heaven. I mean, I'm sure that dude had offers of all kind of stuff NIL wise, right? That I'm sure he probably could have chose different, but that he family wanted development, right? And what greater sell for development than the University of Illinois. And so, cool little process. You know, I was happy we got him, just as I was just as happy we got Torrey, right? We were competing with some people with Torrey. You know, we were competing with some people with General Hunt. And so I'm like really excited that we were able to add some just a little more, couple of experience pieces for us defensively. That's, I think, gonna be really beneficial to us.
With General, Jamo's obviously got some development
going
on there. What's it mean for you as a coordinator to have a guy with the success that he's had in development and to bring in some of those guys?
Man, I tell people all the time, you know, I mean, Jamo's obviously a humble guy, and I brag on him a lot, man. I truly believe we got the #1 defensive line coach in the country. You know, Jamo is, if I'm not mistaken, if it's him and maybe somebody else, but right now, only I know if he's the only defensive line coach in the country that has had player of the years at his position in multiple conferences, right? So that should tell you just how that dude operates, right? And from a developmental standpoint, right? Like I was able to watch Jamo in a school visit, right, with in a parent-like setting, teach a kid about like hand placement, right? Just standing up there, like just 30 seconds, 40 seconds, teach a kid about where his hand placement should be. And so I always thought that was really cool. Jamo's an extremely detailed, right? Jamo's unbelievable for me because he's extremely detailed and he's a phenomenal teacher, you know. And so like he's the magic dust, right? If there's magic dust, it's Coach Jameson, right? Like what he does up front with those guys is like really special and very elite. Like, you know, obviously we pride ourselves on being a developmental program, and we try to look for guys who are Coach B always talks about it, undervalued, under-recruited, undeveloped, you know what I mean? And so we get those kind of guys into our program, and we really have a system in which we try to ingratiate them and develop them, and Jamo's been doing a hell of a job.
And for you personally, heading into your second year as the coordinator, play caller, how do you feel like you've grown in that role over the last year?
Oh, dude, man, like I'm sitting back on probably about a week ago, and obviously we're watching East Illinois, watching Kansas, watching Central, Central Michigan, and I'm just like, dude, I didn't know nothing, you know, like, because I'm looking at things from like a completely different perspective now, right? And I think part of like I'm sure when Coach became a head coach, right, there was some on-the-job training you learn, right? When you come into a new role, right, and you're elevated, there are elements of things that you think you know, but you don't really know them until you get into them. And so what I'm really excited for this season is, obviously, you know, they always tell us you make your biggest jumps from week 1 to week 2 during the course of the season. Well, they also say that, right, when you're moving into a new role from year 1 to year 2, that's when you make your biggest jumps. And so I'm just really excited about going into the season, you know, obviously with a little more experience on the back end, right, with some very key pieces up front, you know, that I feel like are going to really help us in how we do things defensively. And so the cool thing is watching these guys, right, like gel and get to know each other and build these bonds that go beyond football and they go beyond the X's and O's, right? And so like it's something that I think we've always tried to do, but it's been taken to a whole new level this offseason because we got 15 new guys that came in, right? And some of those guys, you hope they can come in and play for you. Some of those guys, you expect them to come in and play for you. And so you just got to get them into your program and develop them and kind of mesh them all together with guys, obviously, that have already been there. And, you know, I think Coach has done a really good job of that.
And you mentioned Xavier and Matthew back. What's it mean for your defense to have those two doing football-like things again?
Dude, I would tell you this, right? So just imagine, right, deep sea diving with no equipment. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, if you're a good swimmer, you probably feel relatively comfortable about it. But if you got on the gear, you feel that much better, right? The value that those two young men bring in terms of their voice, right? In terms of their voice, it's like, it's unbelievable, right? I can remember when Matt Bailey was on the field last year, just a sense of calmness that the secondary had, right, when he's on the field, because Matt Bailey is a general. Matt Bailey is going to tell you like it is. He's going to communicate at an extremely high level. Xavier Scott is as well, right? To see him coaching up the young guys when he's not in, like having those guys, right, it's like having a coach on the field, like literally like having a coach on the field. So in terms of the secondary, not just it benefits our whole defense, right, because they are elite communicators. And then just to see, right, like to see Miles Scott, I mean, Miles Scott the growth that he's made in a year, it's incredible. I've never seen a player jump, right? Not from a physical, but from a mental and overall understanding of the game, make the jump that he's just made from last year until now. Like, he had an incredible spring, right? And I'm like I truly believe, I'm not gonna say it, but I believe that we got a really, really special group of guys in that secondary and on our defense.
I figure you've got kind of a unique perspective, but what kind of weapon did Barry add in Zachary Franklin?
So I remember when Zachary came in on his OV. Obviously, I was just talking trash to him, dude. Like, I'm always talking trash to those wideouts, and you know, we had just landed Terrence, or close to landing him, and I was just telling him, like, dude, we're bringing in guys too that can cover you, and so we got guys here that can cover you. Give him a little bit of I was giving him a hard time, and he was giving it back to me, right? And I love those kind of players, obviously, because they're hard wild the right way. But I think the coolest part is going to be, like, right, watching him come in and watch all those other guys that are going to be around him, you know what I'm saying, and bring them in that huddle of wide receivers, man. Like, Coach Stepp has done an unbelievable job, right? The strides that Pat Bryant is, he's the real deal, man. Like, he's extremely special. Just his leadership, you know, like the steps he's taken, seeing him from as a freshman come into now, like that dude's night and day, man. And I'm just really excited for the offensive side in general, especially that wide receiving core, because it's only going to make us better on the back end, you know.
Doug asked about your year two as a coordinator and as a coach. How much did you have to coach against the results, in the sense of, and I know what we do here works, regardless of what happened last year and what guys were going through and maybe what I was going through, I know what works here, you know?
Yeah.
And how to stay true to who you are, kind of thing, even though you might want to change everything.
Yeah. Oh, 100%, right? I can remember Nick Saban once telling a story, all right, in regards to him running a play, I think it was in high school, right? And a play being ran in high school, and it was the same play that they had ran the year before, but this year, the play had worked even that much better because the player that was running it, right? And so, like I think at the end of the day, I think what we forget is, like, this is a players-driven game. It just shocks my mind sometimes, right? Like, we had a top 3 defense, right? We had 3 guys drafted in the secondary, right? And as crazy as this sounds, right, we were primarily man-free, but we only rushed 3 defenders that year, which was, like, insane to even, like, think about, right? We only rushed 3 guys. Well, those guys got drafted, right? Those guys were uber talented. Those guys were literally professionals, right? Like, I think about guys who entered the NFL. Like to sell to a lot of our recruits, I always tell them, like, our guys don't leave here to play in the NFL. They leave here to start. They leave here to be day one starters. Like, I literally went from a professional secondary to babies, right? And there were some growing pains, some things I learned, right? Just in terms of trying to help those guys be really good players. But part of that is making sure they got the experience. Part of that is baptism by fire. You know what I mean? And so what I am excited about in regards to this year is, right, that fire that they were put in, it's only going to benefit them, right? Or at least that's what we pray and hope for, right? And then obviously we added some transfer guys that I think are going to bring those guys along as well. But I wish you guys could see, like, a behind the scenes view of how those guys have been meshing and gelling in terms of communication, in terms of spending time together away from the facility. Like, it is like never before, you know, and it's really, really cool.